Welcome back to English Life Avenue. What if I told you that 1 month from today you could speak English confidently, without fear, without translating in your head, and without feeling embarrassed? Sounds impossible? 1 month ago, there was a young man named Armin. He understood English when he read slowly. He knew grammar, rules. He watched videos. But when someone spoke to him in real life, his mind went blank. His heart beat fast. His tongue felt heavy. He always translated in his head, word by word, sentence by sentence. By the time he built a sentence, the conversation was already over. He told himself, maybe I am not talented. Maybe English is not for me. But deep inside, he knew the truth. It was not about talent. It was about method. It was about consistency. It was about courage. One night, Armin made a simple decision. He said, for 1 month, I will stop making excuses. I will practice every single day, no matter what. He did not promise to study 5 hours a day. He did not promise to become perfect. He only promised one thing: daily action. Day 1 was uncomfortable. He spoke to himself in English for 10 minutes. He felt silly. He made mistakes. He repeated simple sentences again and again. Day 3, he started shadowing. He listened to short English stories and repeated every sentence out, loud, slowly, clearly, again and again. Day 7, something changed. He was still not fluent, but he was faster. His brain was beginning to think in English, not translate. Instead of saying a sentence in his language first, he tried to build it directly in English. It was messy. It was imperfect. But it was real progress. By week 2, he added one more habit. Every day, he learned 5 new words, not just meanings. He made sentences with them. He used them in short stories. He spoke them aloud. He stopped focusing on grammar, rules all the time. Instead, he focused on patterns. He noticed how native speakers used simple structures again and again. He realized something powerful. Fluency is not about knowing difficult words. Fluency is about using simple words confidently. By week 3, Armin was not afraid anymore. He still made mistakes, but he was not afraid of them. He understood that mistakes are not enemies. They are teachers. He recorded his voice. At first, he hated it. But after listening carefully, he saw improvement. His pronunciation became clearer. His speed became more natural. On day 30, he looked back. He was not perfect. He was not a native speaker. But he could speak freely, naturally, without panic, without translating every sentence. 1 month did not give him magic. It gave him momentum. And momentum changed everything. This is the truth about speaking fluent English in 1 month. It is not about becoming perfect. It is about becoming fearless. It is about training your brain daily. It is about small steps that create big results. If Armin could change in 1 month, why not you? This is only the beginning. The next morning, Armin woke up tired. He had work to do, responsibilities, messages to answer, problems to solve. His life did not stop just because he wanted to improve his English. For a moment, he thought, I will start tomorrow. Today is too busy. But then he remembered something important. If he waited for a perfect day, he would wait forever. So instead of studying for 1 hour, he studied for 15 minutes. Not because 15 minutes was enough, but because 15 minutes was possible. He listened to a short English audio while getting ready. He repeated simple sentences quietly. He described what he was doing in English. I am opening the door. I am drinking water. I am sending an email. IT Felsmål. Almost too simple. But something powerful was happening. His brain was slowly accepting English as part of daily life, not as a school subject. During lunch break, he watched a short video in English, not with subtitles in his language, only English subtitles. At first, he did not understand everything, but he did not stop. He guessed meanings from context. He stayed calm. In the evening, he felt exhausted. His body wanted rest. His mind wanted social media. But he made a deal with himself. 5 minutes. Just 5 minutes of speaking practice. He stood in front of the mirror and talked about his day. Today was busy. I felt tired. But I am proud because I did not quit. The sentences were simple. The grammar was not perfect. But they were real. And something strange happened. The more he spoke, the less afraid he became. He realized that fear grows in silence. When you avoid speaking, fear becomes stronger. But when you speak, even badly, fear becomes smaller. 1 week later, his confidence was different. Not loud confidence. Not fake confidence. Quiet confidence. He stopped asking himself, am I good enough? Instead, he asked, did I practice today? That question changed everything. Some days were messy. Some days he forgot words. Some days he felt slow. But he never skipped 2 days in a row. That was his rule. No 0 days. Even on the busiest days, he did something small. A short audio. A few sentences. A quick review of vocabulary. He understood a powerful truth. Fluency is not built in long study sessions. It is built in daily contact with the language. English was no longer something far away. It was becoming familiar, comfortable, normal. And the most important change was not in his vocabulary. It was in his identity. He stopped saying, I am trying to learn English. He started saying, I am becoming an English speaker. Those words changed how he acted. When you change your identity, your actions follow. Step by step, day by day, his mind was rewiring. Not because of talent, not because of luck, but because he refused to stop. And that quiet decision, repeated daily, was transforming his life more than he ever expected. By the middle of the month, something unexpected happened. Armin was not just practicing English anymore. He was observing himself. He noticed that when he stopped worrying about mistakes, he spoke faster. When he focused on communication instead of perfection, conversations felt lighter. One evening, he joined an online English-speaking room. His hands were slightly shaking before he clicked the join button. That old fear was still there, quietly waiting. A voice inside him said, "What if they laugh? What if you forget words?" But another voice answered, "What if you improve?" He joined. At first, he only listened. Different accents, different speeds. Some speakers were fluent. Some were also learning. Nobody sounded perfect. Then someone asked him, "Where are you from?" It was a simple question. A question he had answered many times in his head. But this time, it was real. He took a small breath and spoke. "I'm from Afghanistan. I've been learning English seriously for a few weeks now." His pronunciation was not perfect. He paused once, but he did not freeze. He did not translate every word. The sentence came directly from his mind. And nobody laughed. They responded normally. They asked more questions. The conversation continued. After the session ended, Armin sat quietly for a minute. Seit was IT? The wall in his mind was breaking. He realized that fluency is not a sudden explosion. It is a slow construction, brick by brick, sentence by sentence. From SETI he changed one more habit. Instead of consuming English passively, he started producing it actively. After watching a video, he summarized it out loud. After reading a short text, he explained it in his own words. After learning new vocabulary, he created mini stories. He trained his brain to think faster. At first, forming ideas in English felt like pushing a heavy door. But with repetition, the door became lighter. He also stopped comparing himself to advanced speakers. Comparison had stolen his motivation before. Now he compared himself only to his past version. Am I better than last week? That was the only competition that mattered. Some days were frustrating. On one afternoon, he forgot simple words like decision and improve. He felt angry at himself. But instead of quitting, he wrote those words down and used them 10 times in different sentences. He understood something powerful. Forgetting is part of learning. Struggling is part of growing. By the end of the 3rd week, English no longer felt like a foreign system. It felt like a tool he could use, even if imperfectly. His sentences became longer. His pauses became shorter. His fear became smaller, the biggest. Transformation was invisible. He trusted himself He trusted that if he did not know a word, he could explain the idea differently. He trusted that mistakes would not destroy him. He trusted the process, and that trust gave him freedom. He was not fluent yet, but he was no longer the person who was afraid to speak. He was becoming someone new, someone disciplined, someone consistent, someone brave enough to open his mouth and try. And once you reach that stage, fluency is no longer a dream. It becomes a direction. As the 4th week began, Arman noticed something different in his daily life. English was no longer something he had to force. It was slowly becoming a habit, like brushing his teeth or checking his phone. It was part of his routine. But this week was harder in a new way. At the beginning, everything felt exciting. New plan, new motivation, clear goal. Now the excitement was lower. The routine felt normal. And when something becomes normal, your mind tries to relax. One evening he thought, I improved a lot already. Maybe I can skip today. That thought was dangerous. Not because one missed day would destroy everything, but because small excuses grow quickly. He remembered why he started, not just to speak English, but to change his discipline, to prove to himself that he could finish something. So instead of skipping, he changed the style of practice. He went for a short walk and started thinking out loud in English. He described the street, the weather, the people around him. The air is cold tonight. I can hear cars in the distance. I feel calmer than last month. IT was simpler. But it was real thinking in English. No translation. No preparation. For the first time, he felt something powerful. He was not building sentences. Sentences were forming naturally. That small shift gave him confidence. The next day, he challenged himself more. He chose a topic. Success. He set a timer for 5 minutes and spoke without stopping. At first, there were pauses. Then ideas began to connect. One sentence led to another. He realized fluency is not about speed. It is about flow. When your ideas connect smoothly, even simple words sound powerful. He also started correcting himself gently, not with anger, not with frustration. If he made a grammar mistake, he repeated the sentence correctly and continued. No drama, just adjustment. One afternoon, something surprising happened. A friend sent him a voice message in English. Before, this would create stress. He would listen 3 times and still feel nervous to reply. This time, he listened once, smiled, and answered naturally. Not perfectly, but confidently. After sending the voice message, he felt proud. Not loud pride. Quiet satisfaction. He understood that this progress was not magic. It was repetition, daily contact, small courage. He was still learning new words, still improving pronunciation, still making mistakes. But now, mistakes did not control him. He controlled the process. On day 28, he listened to an old recording of his voice from the first week. He almost did not recognize it. The hesitation, the long pauses, the low confidence. The difference was clear. Not because he became a native speaker in 1 month, but because he became consistent for 1 month. And consistency creates transformation. He looked at himself in the mirror again, just like day 1. But this time different, stronger, calmer, certain. He finally understood something that most people never accept. You do not become fluent in 1 month because of time. You become fluent because for 1 month you refused to quit. And that decision changes more than your English. It changes you by the final days of the month. Armin stopped counting the days. At the beginning, he marked every single one on his calendar. Day 1, day 2, day 3. Each mark felt like a small victory. Now, he did not need the calendar. English had become part of his identity. One morning, something unexpected happened at work. A foreign client joined an online meeting. Normally, Armin would stay silent. He would let others speak. He would avoid eye contact, even through a screen. But this time was different. When the client asked a question, there was a short silence in the meeting. Armin felt that familiar tension in his chest. The old version of him would have looked down. Instead, he spoke. I think we can solve this problem by adjusting the timeline. Let me explain. His voice was steady. Not perfect. Not dramatic. Just steady. As he explained his idea, he noticed something important. He was not translating. He was thinking directly in English. When he did not know a specific word, he described the idea differently. And it worked. The meeting continued smoothly. Nobody interrupted him. Nobody corrected him. Nobody laughed. After it ended, he leaned back in his chair and exhaled slowly. That moment meant more than any grammar rule he had ever memorized. Later that night, he reflected on the month. He did not become fluent because he found a secret trick. He did not unlock a magical shortcut. He followed simple principles. Daily speaking, active listening, learning small amounts of vocabulary, thinking in English, refusing to quit. He also understood something deeper. Fluency is emotional before it is technical. Most people are not blocked by vocabulary. They are blocked by fear. Fear of mistakes. Fear of judgment. Fear of sounding different. When Armin reduced fear, fluency increased naturally. He still had a long journey ahead. His pronunciation could improve. His vocabulary could expand. His speed could grow. But he was no longer afraid of the journey. He trusted the process now. 1 month earlier. He believed English was a mountain, tall, impossible, intimidating. Now he realized something simple. It was not a mountain. It was Earth. And every day he walked, even slowly, he moved forward. That realization gave him peace. He did not need to rush. He did not need to impress anyone. He only needed to continue. Because the real transformation was not just in his English. It was in his discipline, his confidence, his belief in himself. And once a person learns that, they can change in 30 days with focus and consistency. They stop doubting their ability in other areas of life too. English was only the beginning. The habit of showing up every day was the real victory after 1 month. Something subtle but powerful had changed inside Armin. He no longer introduced himself as someone who is trying to improve English. He simply acted like someone who speaks English. That difference may look small. It is not. Because when you change how you see yourself, your behavior follows automatically. At the beginning of this journey, Armin was obsessed with fluency. He wanted speed. He wanted perfect pronunciation. He wanted to sound like a native speaker immediately. Now, his focus was different. He focused on clarity. Instead of speaking fast, he spoke clearly. Instead of using complicated words, he used simple and strong sentences. He paused when needed. He breathed. He allowed his thoughts to form naturally. And strangely, people understood him better. One weekend, he decided to challenge himself again. He recorded a 10-minute video of himself speaking about his goals for the next year. No script, no preparation. The first 2 minutes were slightly slow. Then something clicked. Ideas started flowing. Sentences connected. He explained his thoughts with confidence. When he watched the video later, he did not look for mistakes first. He looked for progress. And the progress was obvious. His pronunciation was clearer than before. His rhythm sounded more natural. His mind did not freeze in the middle of sentences. He smiled. Not because he was perfect, but because he proved something to himself. Consistency beats intensity. Many times in the past, he had studied English for 5 hours in one day and then stopped for a week. That never worked. This time, he studied a little every day, even on busy days, even on tired days, especially on tired days, because discipline is built when motivation is low. He also noticed that English started appearing in his thoughts automatically. Sometimes he would think about a problem in English without realizing it. Sometimes he would react in English inside his mind. This was the real sign of growth. The language was becoming internal. It was no longer something external that he had to switch on. And to fear, it was almost gone. Not because he eliminated it completely, but because he acted despite it so many times that fear became quiet. One evening, he wrote a simple sentence in his notebook. Fluency is not a destination. It is a lifestyle. That sentence changed how he saw the future. He stopped asking, "Can I become fluent in 1 month?" Instead, he asked, "Can I continue improving every month?" That question was stronger because 1 month gave him confidence, but continuing would give him mastery. He realized something important that most learners misunderstand. Speaking fluent English in 1 month does not mean becoming perfect in 30 days. It means building enough confidence, enough habit, and enough mental speed to communicate freely. And he had achieved that. Not by magic, not by talent, but by daily courage. And once you learn how to show up for yourself every single day, language is just the beginning. You start believing that you can rebuild any skill. 1 month ago, Armin was afraid to speak. Now he was ready to grow. And growth does not stop at 30 days. It begins there, a few weeks after completing his first month. Armin noticed something even more interesting. People started reacting differently to him. Not because his English was perfect. It wasn't. He still searched for words sometimes. He still made small grammar mistakes. But his energy had changed. Confidence has a sound. It's in the tone of your voice, in the way you finish your sentences, in the calm pauses between your words. One afternoon, he met a new colleague who spoke English fluently. Before, Armin would have felt small next to someone like that. He would compare accents, speed, vocabulary. This time, he listened carefully, not with fear, with curiosity. Instead of thinking, "He is better than me," he thought, "What can I learn from him?" That small mental shift removed pressure. When it was his turn to speak, he spoke clearly, slowly, naturally. The colleague nodded and responded normally. And in that simple interaction, Armin understood something powerful. Fluency is not about impressing people. It is about expressing yourself. When you focus on expression instead of perfection, communication becomes easier. He also realized that mistakes were still part of the journey. One day, during a conversation, he used the wrong tense. He noticed it immediately. In the past, that would have destroyed his confidence for hours. Now, he simply corrected himself and continued. No drama, no self-criticism, just improvement. That emotional control made his English stronger than any vocabulary list ever could. He began helping a friend who wanted to improve English too. And while explaining simple techniques like shadowing, daily speaking, and thinking in English, he understood them even deeper. Teaching strengthened his own fluency, because when you clearly, you master it. He kept his daily habits alive. 10 minutes of speaking, listening actively, learning a few new words in context, recording himself once a week. Nothing extreme, nothing complicated, but extremely consistent. And that consistency built something bigger than language. It built trust in himself. He trusted that if he continued, he would improve. He trusted that progress would come, even if it was slow. Most people quit not because they are incapable. They quit because they expect fast results. Armin stopped expecting magic. He expected progress, and progress always showed up. One evening, while walking alone, he realized he was thinking completely in English, not forcing it, not practicing, used thinking. He stopped walking for a second and smiled. This was the moment he once believed was impossible. There was no applause, no dramatic music, just a quiet understanding. He had changed, not in one perfect month, but because he used 1 month to build discipline, and discipline created freedom. Now, English was not a barrier anymore. It was a bridge to new conversations, new opportunities, new confidence. And the most powerful part, he knew this was only the beginning. Months passed, but Armin never returned to the old version of himself. The difference was not dramatic from the outside. He did not suddenly sound like a news reporter. He did not use complicated vocabulary in every sentence. But inside, everything was different. English was no longer something he feared. It was something he used. One day, he received an unexpected email. An international online project was looking for participants who could communicate in English. A few months ago, he would have ignored it immediately. He would have told himself, "I'm not ready." This time, he read the email carefully. His heart beat a little faster, but not from fear, from excitement. He applied. During the online interview, he felt nervous for the first 2 minutes. That was normal, but in fighting the nervousness, he accepted it. He spoke clearly. When he needed a second to think, he paused calmly. When he forgot a word, he explained the idea in another way. And something powerful happened. The interviewer was not judging his accent. He was listening to his ideas. After the call ended, Armin realized a deep truth. Most people are too busy thinking about themselves to judge you. The fear he carried for years was built in his own mind. A week later, he received the message. He was accepted. Not because his English was perfect, but because it was strong enough. Strong enough to communicate. Strong enough to express ideas. Strong enough to create opportunity. That was the real meaning of Speak Fluent English in 1 month. It was never about becoming flawless in 30 days. It was about building enough courage and consistency in 30 days to change your direction. Armin continued practicing, not with pressure, not with obsession, but with commitment. He upgraded his habits slowly. Longer conversations, more complex topics, reading deeper materials, expanding vocabulary naturally. But he never abandoned the basics. Daily speaking, active listening, thinking in English, small improvements. He understood something that most learners ignore. Fluency is not a single achievement. It is a living skill. If you use it, it grows. If you avoid it, it weakens. So he kept using it, even when he was busy, even when he was tired, even when nobody was watching. And that is the difference between someone who tries and someone who transforms. Looking back, the biggest change was not his pronunciation. It was his identity. He no longer saw English as a wall in front of him. He saw it as a door. And the key was never talent. It was daily action. 1 month gave him momentum. The following months gave him expansion. But the first decision gave him everything. Because the day he stopped waiting for the perfect time was the day his life began to shift. And that shift did not only change his English, it changed his belief in what is possible. After everything he achieved, Armin understood something that surprised even himself. The real battle was never English. It was discipline. It was identity. It was the quiet promise he made to himself on that first night when nobody was watching. One evening, he opened his old notebook from the beginning of the journey. The first pages were full of doubt. I am slow. My pronunciation is bad. I feel embarrassed when I speak. He read those lines carefully. They did not hurt anymore. They felt distant, like reading about another person. That is when he realized something powerful. When you change your habits, you slowly change your self-image. And when your self-image changes, your limits change. Armin was now having real conversations in English without preparing sentences in his head. He could join discussions. He could share opinions. He could even disagree politely and explain his reasons. That ability gave him more than language skills. It gave him presence. In meetings, he spoke up more. In online communities, he participated more. In learning spaces, he asked questions without fear. Confidence in one area started spreading into other parts of his life. That is the hidden power of learning a language seriously. It forces you to become comfortable with discomfort. Every time he opened his mouth despite fear, he trained courage. Every time he made a mistake and continued, he trained resilience. And those qualities are bigger than vocabulary. One afternoon, while helping his friend practice English, he said something that surprised him. Fluency is built in small, boring moments. His friend laughed. Boring? Yes, Armin said. The daily repetition. The simple sentences. The short print on a feel like IT. That's where fluency is built. Not in motivational videos. Not in one powerful day of study. But in ordinary days, repeated consistently. He no longer chased fast improvement. He respected slow growth. And slow growth, repeated long enough, becomes massive transformation. Looking back, the idea of speaking fluent English in 1 month was not a lie. It was a starting line. In 1 month, he built enough skill to communicate freely. In the months after, he built depth. But none of it would have happened without that first decision to act daily. Now, when someone told him, "I can't speak English," he did not argue. He did not criticize. He simply thought, "You haven't committed yet," because talent was never the difference. Commitment was, and that commitment was not loud. It was quiet, repeated, unbreakable. The fear that once controlled him had become small background noise. The hesitation that once stopped him had become a short pause. And the dream that once felt distant had become normal reality. Not perfect, but real. And sometimes real is more powerful than perfect. The final days of Armin's journey were not about learning new words or memorizing grammar rules. They were about transformation. 1 month earlier, he had feared speaking. Every English sentence felt like a mountain, every conversation a test. But now, after 30 days of consistent practice, something remarkable had happened. He had learned to speak. Not perfectly, but fearlessly. His voice was steady, his sentences were natural, and, most importantly, he trusted himself. It started with small steps. 10 minutes a day of speaking aloud, repeating simple sentences, describing his surroundings, shadowing short audio lessons. At first, it felt tedious, almost meaningless. But repetition quietly rewired his mind. His thoughts started forming directly in English. Mistakes still came, but they no longer controlled him. Each error was just another chance to learn. Another brick in the foundation of confidence. By the 3rd week, he joined online English conversation rooms. Listening initially, he gained courage from watching others make mistakes too. Then came the first moment that changed everything. He was asked a simple question. "Where are you from?" And he answered confidently. Not perfectly, but clearly. Nobody judged him. Nobody laughed. That small interaction opened a door. The wall of fear that had seemed unmovable began to crumble. As days passed, Armin's identity shifted. He stopped saying, "I'm learning English." He began to see himself as an English speaker. This change in mindset amplified every action. Speaking in English became automatic in daily life. He described his meals, his errands, even his thoughts in English. Short sentences turned into longer ideas. Short pauses turned into smooth flow. The biggest transformation, however, was internal. Confidence that was once absent now grew quietly, like a strong root. He could join meetings, express opinions, and answer questions without hesitation. He could explain ideas, clarify doubts, and engage in conversations naturally. Mistakes were no longer failures. They were part of growth. He had trained his mind to persist even when tired, busy, or distracted. By the end of the month, Armin realized the truth. Fluency is not built in sudden breakthroughs. It is created by consistent, daily effort, by refusing to quit, by showing up every day even. When it felt small or boring, he built momentum that could never be taken away. The habit of action, not the magic of talent, was the real key. And here is the secret that Armand discovered, which everyone trying to learn English should remember. Fear shrinks when you act. Mistakes become stepping stones. And consistency compounds faster than talent or speed. Every small step, repeated daily, builds a foundation for confidence, fluency, and even personal growth beyond language. Armand's journey shows that the first month is only the beginning. But in that month, everything changes. Fear becomes manageable, hesitation becomes courage, and the impossible becomes possible. One decision, one step at a time, transforms not just English skills but identity, discipline, and belief in oneself. So here is the challenge for you. Take your first step today. Speak one sentence. Record yourself. Repeat. Make a small effort consistently. That is how fluency begins, how courage grows, and how your life can change in ways you never imagined. Because when you act every day, your English is no longer a barrier, it becomes your bridge. And once you cross that bridge, the journey of growth continues beyond words, beyond lessons, and into every part of life where courage, persistence, and confidence matter. Armand's story ends here. But your story begins the moment you take that first step. Are you ready? Your next chapter starts now.